Well, good morning everybody. Bill Barker here for the Nature Coast Marine Group. I'm just down at Potato Point with Scott Ling, who's here from the University of Tasmania, the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies. He's doing some rather interesting research here on a subject that's pretty interesting for people on the south coast. So let's have a chat with Scott. So what have we got here, Scott?
Okay, Bill, well, this is the long spine sea urchin, known as Centra stephanus rogers. It's a native to New South Wales, and in recent times it's extended its range further down towards Tasmania and across Tasmania where I'm from. I'm interested in coming up here to New South Wales and studying this long spine urchin in its natural habitat and try and work out, you know, what it does here and the sort of threats that it may cause now that it's in Tasmania in a big way.
As an individual, it looks quite attractive with that beautiful crimson colour underneath it.
Yeah.
But I gather that we're not looking at them so much as individuals.
No, we're not looking at this urchin as an individual. We're looking at it at the population level. When its abundances reach about 2 to 3 per square metre, they can affect overgrazing of the kelp beds. So they're a herbivore, so they use these teeth here to chew away the kelp from the reef surface. And this is a really important process because the kelp beds are habitat for a whole bunch of species. Things like abalone, rock lobster, all depend on healthy kelp beds. So what we're finding is more and more of these sea urchins are increasing and more of the kelp beds are being overgrazed, particularly in Tasmania, but also across the New South Wales coast where these sea urchin barrens account for about 50% of all the nearshore rocky reef habitats. So it looks like urchin abundances have been high in New South Wales for a long time now, and we're starting to see them increasing in Tasmania. So I'm really interested in trying to understand the way in which they impact the reef across this really large scale.
Yeah. And what are you going to do this morning in Potato Point?
Well, what we're doing here is we're actually going to tether out some of these sea urchins on the reef and try and understand if there are any local predators in the environment that may be big enough and strong enough to be able to eat these sea urchins. Because one thing we see with sea urchins all over the world is their numbers can really explode once their natural predators have been removed from the system. And fishing is a way of that occurring. So fishing usually targets the large predators of a system, and so a lot of fishing pressure can reduce the abundance of predators, allowing things like sea urchins to thrive. And then the really interesting thing, because sea urchins overgraze kelp bed, you can get this interesting dynamic where predators are removed, sea urchin numbers increase, and then the kelp bed is lost. So, and a lot of the predators we know actually depend on the kelp bed itself. So there's these really interesting sort of feedbacks in the ecosystem that can cause sort of collapse of these kelp bed systems and the whole reef environment to completely switch.
And I understand in Tasmania there's a big climate change aspect to that.
Yeah, that's right. So in Tasmania 30 years ago we just didn't see this species at all, and we're seeing it come down in bigger numbers from New South Wales, and it really gets down there, and a lot of the reefs have been heavily fished, and in those situations the urchin's allowed to get a foothold in the system and impact the kelp bed more than it would if we had a better balance of predators to begin with.
And people across the border in Tassie are concerned about this, I guess, are they?
Yeah, they really are, and the people who are concerned most are the fishing industries. You lose abalone when you lose the kelp beds. You lose lobsters as well. So they're the kind of the big ticket items on the reef. You also lose about 150 other species that make their home amongst the kelp beds. So other things that are just contributing to the broader biodiversity of the reef. However, there's those big ticket abalone lobster fisheries where a lot of the research funding has come from to try and tackle the problem. So we're really here up in New South Wales trying to get a better understanding of this species across its entire range.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you here, Scott. Sometimes we don't get so much research going on in this area, but it's obviously important to us as well. So let's get on with it and we'll see what we can find.
Thanks, Bill.